Ebusuafo ne etiefo ni di kwan so me patcho me ma obi bia akwa aba channel so hanu me daily update TV. Ubu kwan so send no first time aba channel so mesro se ni di kwan so tie news ni we na so ni jwa please subscribe for more updates. Like and share news so ma love is so nya news ni bi enti. Yeah, that's be brave. Ebusua me patcho Afenyo Markins as after Parliament biom. Yes, that was some days ago na Afenyo Markins said it's after Parliament biom. Na ebusua enti Alban say practically impossible for the Speaker of Parliament to adhere to the recall of Parliament. And I say, in Sema, Afenyo Markins said, Akroma Speaker, and say, or Panacho, say, on some recall the Parliament. And Alban say, practically impossible. MPs in Parliament, Parliament, because I got some few weeks to election, possibly 1 week and some days to election. Na sisi ya nesa weeks ya ake ya o kan say omunjai omu adwuma omu ye no omu constituency no mbra mbet na parliament all because we Afenyo Markins no afre say aban ne wo niam bi opese oye government business bi aban ne pese oye nti no omombra nti practically speaker of parliament kra no onfi Afenyo Markins na ebusua me pacho before san semu ekra no na Afenyo Markins na nkase pia ba bonten abeka say onante ye echo the Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin on Antuko ni fie ni residence baby a wote Alban Bagbin en fie no ofre Alban Bagbin wo phone so say nka opeso ne ni di nkomo about recall ene niema ACCC wo Parliament Alban Bagbin en fie no amfa ne call no kura later na ono no Afenyo Markins frɛ obi ma nipa ne frɛ the Speaker of Parliament. I know the Speaker of Parliament efa nipa no call, but on no frɛ the Speaker of Parliament in the wenfi no. To the extent was our call speaker ni fie, ama speaker no enfi no kura. Nti sisi was our recall the Parliament. Nti Alban say Speaker Bagbin onfi Afenyo Markins. Yes, onfi no kura. Sisi a to me no, so wo to me ono so wo to me. So wakwama Supreme Court really in favor of Afenyo Markins, even though the Supreme Court never ordered the Speaker of Parliament and omo ya de pass omo yes aden because na komo order the Speaker of Parliament maybe nka speaker no so bank no so be kire ni to me na omo order no kra ni speaker no kra po kire ni to me so onfi Afenyo Markins onfi no Afenyo Markins anka ne pie ba bonten ebe kan say okọ the residence of the Speaker of Parliament speaker na onfi no onfi no kra also friend phones were fino. Mema mikasa nyetinti yenko tie nsem na nkasa for ourselves say audio nyankopon hia no nyokese. Medase.
Supposed to say the right of Mr. Speaker. Place our name tags there. The NDC came to remove them. Mr. Speaker was aware of this. He watched and continued with the proceedings. And for anybody to suggest that the majority was not reaching out, was not building consensus, that person was really getting it wrong. Because for a whole week, I know of prominent chiefs, very prominent and respected chiefs, who was in fact even going to convene Parliament without our recall application, and that I should reach out to him. I went to his residence 2 occasions. They said he was not available. Later, I communicated to that prominent chief. The prominent chief reached out to him. He picked his call, but he didn't pick my call. And then told me that, oh, Mr. Speaker says he's busy with some visiting speakers of African Parliament. So we should make it Monday morning, 10 o'clock. Monday, I spent my whole day in Parliament. Mr. Speaker was not available. Tuesday, same. Later in the afternoon, I was told that Mr. Speaker was challenging the okayedness of the court. So he has instructed his lawyers to file. When we return from court, we'll see what to be done.
Director of the Parliamentary Network Africa. Sami, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us here. I know you've been waiting patiently for us. I do appreciate your patience. But let's talk about this third recall. How does that come to you? What do you think about it?
Good evening and thanks for having me. I was particularly surprised that this request was actually put through because anyone who watches Parliament and knows how Parliament operates, seeing that we are just 2 weeks to elections, knows that it is almost practically impossible to expect that Parliament will be able to reconvene and have any meaningful conversations before election day. And so to have the Supreme Court deliver its verdict about a week ago, and to have the majority leader wait for another extra week before sending in this request. And to send in this request, it is important to note, however, that this request is not even on the back of the emergency recall provision of the Constitution, as was used in the first two instances. But in this particular request, the leader is actually asking Mr. Speaker to exercise his prerogative as Speaker to summon the House, not necessarily through the emergency recall, summon the House regularly, which means that now it rests with Mr. Speaker, so to do. I think that practically it's a challenge. I really do not see how it's possible to get members of Parliament leaving their constituencies and coming to Accra to sit at a time when about 80% of them are seeking re-elections, and they know the risk of what will happen in their respective constituencies if they leave without necessarily campaigning in the next couple of days.
I see. And if by your explanation this is left at the discretion of the Speaker, do you expect the Speaker at this point to reconvene the House?
Well, considering the logistics required, considering the timing in which we are, considering the experiences of the Speaker, considering the situation we find ourselves in, I really do not think that practically we should expect a recall of the House. I've always maintained that Parliament's mandate, the 8th Parliament's mandate, expires on the midnight of January 6th, which means that even after elections, if Parliament is minded so to do, it can still have up to about 1 full month, which can do a lot of the many things that Parliament has on its agenda before this current 8th Parliament, has its tenure expiring. I really do not see Parliament coming back before elections, but I think that there is a lot that can be done after elections and before the Parliament gets dissolved.
I mean, and by that, it pops up the question, why the rush? Why at this very crucial time when a lot of the members of Parliament are on the field campaigning? When you think around that, what comes up for you?
Well, it's difficult to note, and I think that perhaps the majority leader will be best placed to answer this. But I honestly think that if this was put in place much earlier, I mean, we've had the Supreme Court's verdict. Mind you, his petition is literally hinged on the Supreme Court's verdict. We've had the verdict for almost 1 full week, so why would we have 1 week literally wasted, so to speak, before making in this request? Could it also be that the leader has been trying to engage Mr. Speaker on the back and he's not having any results from the backroom conversations, and so now needs to make it official so that he can have the benefit of the paper trail to be able to show for it? There are so many angles that we will not be able to answer. Perhaps we need to find out more detail about this from the majority leader, but I question the practicality of Parliament coming to sit before elections.
Sami, will the NPP caucus and the majority leader have themselves to blame if this emergency recall request is not granted?
I think that the route, the approach, the strategy, Parliament is as much about the standing orders, the orders of Parliament, as it is also about strategy, because, it's a house of politics. It's a house that records matter. It's a house that rules matter. And you have to have a combination of all of these to be able to get the kind of results that you require. I really will be surprised if the majority leader in this particular request was expecting or will be expecting anything extraordinary to happen before elections.
I see. And listen, you talk about the fact that there is that transitional, not transitional period, but, the period after the voting, after December 7th, they have a full month until Parliament expires on January 6th midnight. Could it be the case that the majority leader perhaps is worried about activities that could take place within that transitional period?
Well, I'm wondering which one, makes for a better timing for engagement by a group of people who have majority of them needing to seek re-elections, whether it is the period before elections or the period after elections, which, yes, understandably, will have activities such as the Christmas holidays and what have you. But we've seen Parliament sitting on Saturdays. We've seen Parliament sitting on Mondays when push comes to shove. And for me, I think that is the more practical approach that should be looked at.
I see. And you know, there will also be the matter of certain places again. I mean, so to speak, if Parliament reconvenes, or even if everything ends and they come back after the December 7th polls to the chamber. I mean, what do you foresee? Do you see us go back to what we have seen in the last 3-4 weeks, or you have different expectations of the members of Parliament?
So far as I'm concerned, until the matter that was ruled on by the Supreme Court is challenged through a review, I believe that the matter is really settled. And for me, my expectation would be that upon Parliament coming back, whether it's before elections or after elections, depending on when Mr. Speaker recalls the House, Mr. Speaker has a responsibility to make that announcement for the purpose of the records, to reflect that this is the ruling that has been probably served on him as Speaker from the Supreme Court, and the consequence of the ruling is that the status quo prior to all of these disturbances is reverted to. And I know that with the experience of Mr. Speaker and the experiences also of the parliamentary service, the clerks and all of that supports the Speaker in the discharge of his duties, these should be issues that they should settle on once the House gets reconvened.
I mean, we can only hope that we do not see a repeat of what we have seen in the last few weeks, that some consensus is reached, that the problem of seats, certain places there is dealt with. But I do appreciate you staying up to talk to us on Ghana Tonight. Thank you so much. Sami Obeng is Executive Director for the Parliamentary Network Africa. We've been discussing the latest development from the NPP caucus in Parliament. We know that the member of Parliament for Efutu and the Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo Markins has written for the third time to the Speaker of Parliament to recall the House to consider what they have described as urgent and crucial matters, regarding government business. And we have taken you through what those government businesses are, the Education Committee. He's also Member of Parliament for Akachi North. And I want to pick his thoughts on it just before we go on to some other matters to do with his committee. Peter, good evening, Honourable. Thank you so much for joining us here. But the Member of Parliament for Efutu and the Majority Leader is asking that you all come back to the Parliament, to the chamber, to discuss government business and parliamentary business, so to speak. What are your thoughts on that? Are you coming back, or this is absurd?
Well, thank you very much, and good evening to you. I've been in the constituency for some time now, and I am yet to get that information from my leadership. So I don't know what the situation is now. Whether there is a reason or not, I am not aware for now.
I can tell you for a fact that the Efutu MP Alexander Afenyo Markins has written to the Speaker again that he wants Parliament to be reconvened to look at those bills and those agreements that this 8th Parliament needs to sit on for government business to be looked at. What are your thoughts, really?
Well, as I said, I am yet to get any information to that effect.
Oh, is that to say you don't believe the information I'm giving you?
No, I have not received any information.
But I'm telling you for a fact that that is what is going on. Will you leave your constituency and come to Accra to sit?
No, I'm in my constituency, and I don't think it is necessary now to recall Parliament. So I don't know the fact of it, and unless I see a summon from the Speaker, I will be unable to speak to it.
I see. And I guess that will perhaps resonate with a lot of your side of the caucus. But you know the issues that had led to the adjournments we have seen already. The MPP caucus has made a case about where your side sits anytime you go into Parliament. In the event that there is a recall or Parliament reconvenes after the elections, will your side still sit on the right-hand side of the Speaker? Hello, Peter. Did you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like that line with Peter is not going well. So I'm going to keep Peter on the line while we fix that problem and then move on to another issue that I would want Peter to address for us. Honorable, just hold the line for me. I'm going to move on to Edge because tonight we have been hearing a lot of issues coming from us.
It doesn't come to me as a surprise because this has been a challenge, a perennial one for a very long time now. As members of the Education Committee, we have spoken about this issue of food shortages in our senior high schools over a period now. And we have been of the view that there was a need to find a solution for it. But the ministry did not seem to be doing the best for feeding programs in our senior high schools. So it didn't come to me as a surprise.
I see. It doesn't come to you as a surprise. You say it's something that you have brought up at the committee level a few times. What responses did you get from the Education Ministry as to why these very crucial monies have not been paid?
Well, many a time when we raise the issue, the ministry will be quick to deny any shortages of food in our various senior high schools. So for us as a committee or as an individual, have come to the conclusion that the ministry is ready to listen to anybody and they would like to do whatever they thought was right. So we, as a minority, we have decided not to talk much about it because we will say it and they will tell you it's propaganda. You are doing politics with the feeding of students. And I'm happy the church leadership have come out with this now. So it is a wake-up call to government to provide the food items that are needed in the various institutions for our students to eat and remain in school and learn.
I see, but as the committee in Parliament, you look at the books or the financial statement of the ministry. Is it the case that perhaps they haven't received the money for onward transfer to the schools to be able to use for these very important and significant aspects of education of our young children?
Well, as a committee, every year we recommend for approval by Parliament any amount that was presented to us for approval or recommendation in respect of the school free senior high school program. There was no occasion on which we reduced or cut the proposals brought before us, knowing very well that these monies were needed for the smooth implementation of the free senior high school. But over the years, the stories have been the same. If it is not shortage of food or non-payment for food supply, that is the non-payment for materials or equipment supplied to the various senior high schools. As we talk now, even the tablets that were supplied for the senior high schools have not been paid for. And a whole lot of things are being owed, or sums of money are being owed to suppliers of food items, equipment and materials. So the Ministry of Education, I don't know what is wrong, why they are not getting money from the Ministry of Finance to pay for the food items that have been supplied over the months. So as a committee, we don't have anything to do again. The onus is on government to buy or pay for the food that have been supplied to the schools. So the committee has played its part, and unfortunately, we are even on recess, so there is little that we can do about it.
Absolutely, I understand that. I mean, what I was driving at is whether you know, because this issue is the conference of the heads of assisted secondary schools are saying that it's an issue that goes back to as far back as 2021. So I was asking, I mean, if you vet their financial books from 2021, is it the case that the finance ministry has not given them money, for which reason they have also not been able to pay, or perhaps this money has gone into other projects under the Education Ministry?
It is the challenge with the free senior high school is the over-centralization of procurement of food items for consumption in the senior high schools. You see, you buy all the whatever they call it, the commodities exchange company or the buffer stock. They buy the food, bring everything to Accra to be distributed to secondary schools all over the country. Why don't we decentralize the procurement of food items? We approve 10 Ghana cedis per student for boarding students per day. Now, 70% of that money is kept in Accra, and 30% or 3 cedis to be sent to the schools. Even that is not released to them to the fullest. They will release a number, and then for the rest of the year, they will not release that amount to the various institutions to even buy things that we call perishables. So the schools are handicapped financially, and they are unable to feed the students. When the food is not sent to them, they are unable to get food to feed them because everything is supplied from Accra, will be put at a depot, and then they will go and carry a whole lot of inconveniences that the headmasters are going through in the various senior high schools. So
I see.
The best is to decentralize the procurement of food items, and I think that problem will be solved.
Very well. Honorable, hold the line for me because I've got your namesake on the other line. Dr. Peter.
The fact that even before initiating this action, I had gone to him to discuss the fact that Honorable Harun Idrisu had raised the matter on a political platform and the fact that we should come together and deal with the matter. He assured me that he would guide the process. Unfortunately, that did not happen. I eventually had to file the writ upon seeing the petition of Mr. Idrisu to be argued on the House floor. He again went to Mr. Speaker. That Mr. Speaker, now that you have knowledge of this petition by Honorable Harun Idrisu, does that mean that you are going to take a step? He said no. The application by Harun Idrisu would have to be admitted by him first, and that he has not admitted any motion. So I should be rest assured. Then the next stage of serving the writ on the legal directorate. There again, he gave me assurance that because of a certain circular, the directorate could not receive the process until the next Monday. Then I became alarmed.
Ebusuya me pacho me do bibia se wanyamre no abenya ye video ni bi nso ana sorry ye audio ni nso eti nyakopon hia no nyokese me pacho enche ye de nkomo ni besi ana asa me de nkomo ni besi ana nso ansa na me de besi ni ma rain fi se comes of December 7th ye be pia koto aba ye nyina ye nya ya afamu de na asumdwe na Ghana ye wo no ye nkipi ni save nyakopon hia no nyokese me das be bring nti na ebusuya na audio ni nso wakakra na nti no ye de nkomo ni besi am das be bring